Have you ever wondered what makes a character truly great? How to write your characters in a way that they're not too boring, but they have just enough rich detail to keep the reader invited, to keep you excited about writing them, and your reader having to know more? If that's for you, then welcome to today's episode where we're going to talk about how to edit your characters. I'm Morgan.
This is Molly.
And I'm Teresa.
We're going to start with a little quiz about a character. You may or may not know this character, but we're going to give you a little test about your trivia and characterization. So Molly has in her head a character. Got it, Molly? She's going to give us 3 clues, and Teresa and I are going to guess. She's going to start with a harder clue and then get easier. Okay, ready, Molly? Go. First clue.
First clue. This character had a previous profession before the story in which he was controversial and had to leave for a different profession.
No idea.
Yeah, I'm like,
Had to
I'm
leave
thinking
for
of the one where he's a
another-
teacher, Mr. Wonder. Or what? Yeah. Is that it?
Clue number 2. His profession in the story is school teacher at the
good
start of the story.
guess.
The character's name is not Mr. Wonder, so
What's
I'm
the
not
name of
sure
that
if you're
book?
thinking about a different person.
Oh, what's the name of that book?
I know Teresa.
Wonder. Is the name of the book Wonder?
No, the name of the book is not Wonder.
Okay, so
I'm completely
okay,
blanking.
but that is exactly okay. So that okay, but it's not that one. What about Teresa's book? What about oh
Are you thinking of Stephen Roon?
yes.
It's not Stephen from Teresa's book, although that
Thank
Stephen
you.
was only ever a teacher. He had to leave a
No,
school. He was only ever a teacher.
Okay,
that's
see, I
not
didn't.
true. Wait till book 3.
See?
Okay, so far that we know.
Okay, keep going.
The third clue, I have to make this clue. This is the easiest one, right? This should give
It
it
has
away.
to be like guessable.
Oh yeah. This character, unlike a reluctant hero who eventually agrees to go on an adventure, this character never actually agrees to go on their adventure and yet goes on their adventure anyway.
I feel like it's Snape from Harry Potter.
See, now I'm thinking Frodo
Wasn't a teacher. Okay, I don't know. Tapping out. No
or
idea.
Bilbo.
Comment below if you know before I tell you in 5, 4, 3, 2, run. This is Ryland Grace from Project Hail Mary.
Oh, of course.
Oh,
Of course.
yes. And that's a really perfect one right now.
Yes. So
now,
this
if you would have
character
asked us about Rocky, we would have done better, right?
yeah. Maybe I should have picked Rocky, but I picked Grace.
So
An alien that is a rock. Yes.
This is a perfect opportunity for us to talk about what to edit in characters and what not to edit in characters. So that's a character Teresa and I were well familiar with. We've read the book, we've seen the movie, we know all about the character. And yet with those specific clues, it wasn't enough to like give us what made that character special, or at least how we cataloged it in our memory. So today we want to talk about how you keep the important elements of characterization, like that he was a teacher, and the very important point that he was reluctant to go on his mission. And then also add those details that perhaps would have made it easier for us to guess, or like would have made it more clear about where he was in time and space. So let's start with the first question. When you're writing your character, a lot of people, well, there's a lot of opinions from different authors about how much work you need to put into developing your character. I've heard people like literally say you need to do a character Bible that's like no less than 100 pages on just everything about the character. So Teresa and Molly, you guys are brilliant at character writing. Do you do that?
No.
In fact, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, in fact, when I'm developing new characters, in early drafts, a lot of times I'll just kind of start letting them interact with the characters that I'm really familiar with, just with dialogue and just how they talk and their behavior, and just let things kind of bubble up. It may or may not stick, but once I get their voice in my head, and yes, I know it is a literal voice in my head, then I can start like building up the other pieces. Like, for example, I was writing a character the other day and I wrote, he stuffed his hands in his pockets and walked away. And I was like, perfect. That is a perfect mannerism for this character. And that's what I will use going forward. But I didn't plan it. I just, in the
Just
moment,
happened.
I was like, that's amazing. That's what works for this character.
But you, Molly.
Yeah. Sort of similar. I usually start my stories from a fairly organic place, you know. I might do some prep work and stuff like that, and I might have an idea of who this character is, what they might sound like, whether they're, some of their main traits, right? Are they stubborn? Or do they love their family? Like certain things I might have like kind of ingrained. And then like Teresa said, I start putting them in situations. And as I kind of discover, I keep pretty decent notes. So, sometimes my characters will tell me about themselves. This is kind of weird, but,
Hmm.
it will come up that, oh, I had an awful birthday when I was 5, and that's why I hate birthdays. And then I have to write that down so I remember it, or I will mention that what color the character's eyes are. And I have to write that down so I remember it. Because usually their eye color or their hair color or things like that, like, aren't necessarily plot points. In Teresa's book, Steven's eyes are a plot point, but usually they're not. So I will write it down so I can keep things consistent, right? That's to me the important stuff. There's kind of two things. I need to know how that character would consistently act so they don't feel like they're making decisions and they're a different person from scene to scene.
Hmm.
In one scene they value loyalty, and in the next scene they value money, right? That would be
Okay,
inconsistent. That would
that's
feel weird.
that's an aha moment for me. So it sounds to me like you're both saying, for you at least as authors, it's less important what they look like at the beginning of your novel,
Hmm.
more important what their values are, and then some
Yes.
core tenets of their personality. How
Yes.
many? So we're talking about editing characters. So I can see somebody sitting down and making a huge list. Like, how many values are you talking, and how many core tenets? And is it important to put those in tension with each other so that when the novel is sagging, maybe you're like, you can bring those back to the surface and be like, they're a really honest person, but in this situation, they want to protect their friends, so they need to be dishonest, and so it allows those two kind of aspects to clash. Or do you not really think?
So I know Molly's going to say something. I'm going to jump in because I'm going to show you guys some things. So there might be spoilers in here. Nothing is decided, but this was me doing a compare and contrast between Tobias, who's a new character in book 3, Indira, Stephen, and Kendall. And literally, it is comparing and contrasting different facets of their personality so that there is intentionality when they interact with each other with what's driving them forward. And this was me in my backyard with music pumping and just freestyle. Like, I was just writing. And that's why there ended up being so many random weird sticky notes on it, was and arrows
But
and
look at that. Look, just
who knows what.
can I just kind of pull out? Look at this duty. So we've got these values: family, reluctance, control. Thinks family is family, will always help. So kind of is confident, is not confident. So kind of picking through these important aspects of the character and making sure that not all characters are the same, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
And I have
I
no idea
think
what you picked there.
I
and I
just
think
kind of
what's really powerful is exactly what you said, both of you guys, like values, but then also knowing your character's motivations and goals. And then you can start really playing.
Well, I like what you're saying because if you think about a married couple, usually we'll just assume they both want to be married and happily ever after, right? And so all good romance takes this goal, or give me some
Yeah.
blue here. I know not all, I know, but like the idea that they want to be happily ever after is a common goal that's sought after,
Hmm.
in a romance genre, even if they're in resistance mode or whatever, even if they're working towards accepting that. But then I like the idea that maybe it doesn't look the same. So even we think we have the same goal of happily ever after, maybe for one character that looks like sitting down and having, a really nice dinner for your anniversary and going out to a fancy dance afterwards or something. And then for the other character, true love or a happily ever after looks like hiking 17 miles in Yosemite one day and sleeping in a tent. Not that I would know anything about that, but in all reality, that's the thing of what life is made of, right? So when we're editing our characters, you're saying what I'm getting out of what you're saying is we shouldn't be so worried about what they ate or if they shove their
What
head.
Jolly Rancher flavor?
Yeah, right. Like
Yeah.
whether they're going to shove their hands in their pockets comes later when I'm interacting those two people about their goals and what they see. So it's more important what they vision the goal as. So you can have the same goal, but they could have different visions of that goal based on their own personality and then based on their own values. Is that kind of what we're learning about editing characters?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Molly.
And I would say that you can then take it one step further. So you have these characters, you know their goal, you know like what that vision, like you said, Morgan, it was great the way you said that. They might have the same goal of a happily ever after, but their vision of what that looks like might be different. Their ways of
Hmm.
achieving, their methods they want to use might be different. And then you can go back, and I think it makes sense to me. You build backstory from there. So why does their vision of happily ever after look like the way it does? Maybe that has to do with their parents. Maybe that has to do with the relationships they saw as a child and what happiness or not happiness looked like. And then you can start building in their um, perceptions of the world or misconceptions. You can start building in some trauma if you want to, things like that. But to me, like it builds backwards, not forwards, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, if that makes sense.
And I think people build their characters in different ways. Some people will go ahead and be like, I would like to build a character was who went to a fancy dinner with their parents, and that's the day that their parents said that they were getting a divorce. So therefore, they do not like fancy dinners. They would prefer to go hiking, to use this example. Other people will just build the anniversary couple who goes hiking, and then, as Molly was saying, work backwards and be like, this is why they would prefer to do that. Either there's not a right way.
There's not,
It's
yeah.
whatever way works for you.
So when we're editing our characters, um, do you see, Teresa, you're a professional editor, you get to edit lots of manuscripts. Do you see people overdeveloping their characters on average or underdeveloping, or what are some common mistakes you see in actual character editing?
Data dumping early on. That's a huge one where, and I can often tell authors that have spent a long time building that 100-page document because they don't want it to go to waste. And so early on, when a character is introduced, they're almost listing all of those things. Well, I'm a farmer from Santa Cruz, and my favorite food is going to be strawberries. What is your favorite food? Oh, that is so interesting that your favorite food is celery. I greatly enjoy peanut butter with my celery. And, when you're editing that, you're like, oh, for crying out loud, this doesn't matter. But the author has spent so much time that they're like, but the reader needs to know this stuff because I know this stuff.
Well, and I think as authors, we love our characters so much. It's like moms, we love our kids so much. We don't mind wiping their snotty nose, or we don't mind, we'll take time to know their food but Auntie Teresa doesn't need to know all my kids' favorite foods.
No.
So maybe it's almost like an auntie thing. Like, okay, does the aunt really need to know this? Someone who cares about the character but isn't in charge of the character, or somebody who just, is here for entertainment. Does it really serve the story, or am I dragging down the tempo and making people ask, where is this going? Why am I reading this?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and sometimes that you need a beta reader for, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
the best advice for character editing might be you just write a little description of the character, and it could just even be a little handout, and hand it to somebody and say, which features on here do you think are the most interesting? I mean, that's a fun way to get some early feedback before you jump right in, or when you're kind of in an open stage. That might not work towards the end of your novel, but in character building.
Something that I wanted to build on what Teresa said, I think it's actually very important that you don't necessarily, depending on the story you're writing, reveal everything about your character right away.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to use the example here of 10 things I hate about you, but you can go back to the taming of the shrew.
Oh yeah.
Right? You spend most of this story not knowing and not understanding that the main female character acts the way that she does around men and to men for a reason. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
called Taming of the Shrew because you think that she's a shrew. You think she's just rude. She doesn't like men. It's just a thing, right? Like, it's that kind of stuff. But then you find out more than 3/4 through the story that the reason it was because she was assaulted. Yeah, spoilers for Shakespeare right there.
I'd say a Shakespeare, yeah.
Yeah. But and then it all makes sense, right? And it works because there's this payoff, right? And you get this moment where you're like, "Oh, that's why this is happening. That's why the character is the way she is." And it's really satisfying where if you knew that in the very beginning of the story, it wouldn't be the same story. So how you tell your characters details, their background, their trauma, why they are the way they are, when you tell that, that's an important editing feature. It's not just the details, it's where you put the details in your story that really help.
Now, that being said, I think twists can go too far.
Mm.
I think, and this is a common thing that we're seeing more and more in modern, especially thriller tales. And I've read several where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'm so loving it. And then the last chapter, there's this reveal that you're like, what? All along, they were the villain, or all along, they were the person that killed him, or that type of thing. And that can work. It absolutely can. But if you go back and you don't see the seeds that were planted, it is not a good reveal. There should be seeds planted that are easy to find, that either you go, oh, I didn't put those pieces together when you read it, or you go back and you catch them later.
It's all about consistency.
Yes.
Is the reveal consistent with the information you gave? And if it's not, then the reader feels like, well, this is wrong. This character wasn't that.
This was a cheat.
How could this happen? This was a cheat. You lied to me. But if it's consistent, and like you said, Teresa, we just didn't put the puzzle pieces together. That's the best kind of reveal. I love that.
Yeah.
I wonder about how Taming of the Shrew eats at something else in the human condition that makes that character so much more profound, because we all have people in our life that are difficult, right? And then when you put the backstory to explain why it's difficult, it creates meaning in our own world. So then when we interact with people who are difficult, rather than us judge them or be aggressive towards them, it causes us to be curious about their backstory. And so it opens this world of relatability, empathy, and an understanding of the human condition that I think allows it to kind of transcend, which of course is why it's a classic. But it's that kind of character editing that I think really links into the theme too, where they deliberately are like, we're going to edit this character so that it promotes our theme, and where and how we choose to reveal is critical to promoting the right kind of message that you want to send as an author. And I think that kind of character editing is, to me, what separates somebody from the trend to somebody who truly affects me as a reader in a way that makes my life better, where I want to hand somebody the book and be like, you need to read this because it's a great read, but also it will help you be a better person. And I really appreciate those authors. Like, I'm here for them all the time. And I think that is about character editing.
Yeah, I think
Very
so
well
too.
said.
And I think it's harder than we realize to do that, especially the more we play with our characters and the more that internally we know our characters. I think sometimes it is easy as authors to lose track of who is on the page and who is in our hearts as an author.
Yeah, and making sure that theme, that they're edited more for the theme and pulling out the major tensions that need to hold it together than just who they are as a person, because they have to fill a specific spot in the story in tension with other characters. And so those, what you choose to play up, what you choose to heighten at any moment, like you said, Teresa, I think we're ready to close up, and I want to go right back to what you said. You said I have to put them in the scene, I have to put them with other characters and watch them play, because what you're talking about there is how I get the tension in the scene, how I get the theme coming through, how I make sure that interesting choices are being made.
Exactly. Exactly. Well said. Any takeaways or anything before we remind people to like and follow? Oh, I just did that.
I was going to say, if you have kind of a favorite story that you think is really well done from a character perspective and a character editing perspective, please drop it in a comment below. And I know we talked a lot about The Taming of the Shrew and a little bit about Project Hail Mary as well, but there's so many books out there, so many wonderful stories. So tell us about one that you love.
Aha moments were, let's go over them. We're looking more at first of all, our values of our character. Then Molly's talked about our goals, making sure our values are aligned with our goals. Then our personality traits of the character. And then we're looking at how it links in with those things are in tension with each other. And then we're looking at theme and how we edit for theme. And we're making sure we're not just adding details because we like the details.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We do have a Patreon. Please consider joining. And we also have a Discord, and watch for some fun stuff coming on the horizon.
Have fun with your characters.
Take care, everyone. Bye now.